I don't know about you, but I've literally never had a set of coasters before. And I don't know if it's because I'm 30 now and I'm fully becoming an adult, or if it's that Germany's opening up and I'm getting really excited to see my friends again. But suddenly, I really wanted to make myself a set of coasters. And seeing as I have a YouTube channel and I just love trying new projects for the first time in front of you guys, I decided to film it. So let's get into our DIY coaster project. Before we get started, I wanted to show you a project that I've been working on for a little while, and this is the Make Pottery at Home zine. I actually made this zine during the first lockdown when everything was like actually fully closed, and one of the few things that was open was the local coffee shop. So I decided to get a little DIY and wanted to make this zine for everyone who was starting out pottery for the first time during the pandemic. I know a lot of people started to get a little bit of stress relief, or they lost their access to their community studio and sort of needed to figure out how they were going to work at home. This zine is full of all my best tips to get you started. So like how to set up, what tools do you need, how to find somewhere to fire your pottery, as well as a bunch of basic tips for anyone who's just getting into pottery and sort of needs like an overview. I have these zines now available in my web shop. You can buy the physical version that's hand bound by me, but I also have an ebook version that you can download. I will have both versions linked down below, so let's get on with the tutorial. So I'm going to be using a speckled stoneware clay for this project, and I'm going to list all of the tools that you will need down in the description below. First, you're going to need to roll out a slab. Once your slab is fully rolled out, you're going to want to compress the clay with a rib. Okay, so now we need to let the slab dry out a little bit. So I'm going to lay it on a board. Well, I'm going to have some paper down on the board, and I'm going to lay it down on the paper. Put another piece of paper on top. I'm just using printer paper, but you can also just use newspaper. And then I'm going to put another board on top, and then I'm going to let this dry out for a while. I would actually leave it overnight in order for it to dry out to the right stiffness, because normally we're going to be bending the slab and shaping it. However, in this case, we want the slab to remain very stiff. So if you leave it out overnight, it should be all right. Depending on your climate, if you live in a very arid place or it's very hot, overnight might be a bit too long. But I'm gonna go ahead and leave this clay overnight with another board to compress it, and it should be stiff enough by tomorrow. So I'll see you then. Okay, so it's the next day, and you can see our slab has dried out quite a bit. It's like I almost can't even bend it, which normally would be too dry, but for this one, I think it's gonna be perfect. So I'm gonna try and get 4 squares out of this, and I'll make them as big as I can. I don't really know what the standard size for a coaster is. So I think I'm gonna do 17 centimeters across, because that's the maximum I can fit. Okay, so this is a 17 by 17 centimeter square. Now I need to figure out what half of 17 is. 8.5? Yeah, 8.5. So the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to smooth out these edges. So for this, I'm just going to be taking a wet sponge. I like to use this small sponge because it fits really well in the hand. And if you push it over the edge like that, it curls over both sides. So I can wipe it along like this, and it's gonna smooth out that side into a really like rounded, nice finish. So the magic here is going to be in the decoration. And I'm going to be doing a new technique that I've never shown here on YouTube before. One of my favorite techniques for decorating with glaze. And yeah, I'm going to leave these now. So I'm going to have a piece of paper on top of the board because these are going to want to shrink. And if you put them right on the board, you can risk too much tension building up between the board and the piece. If it's really like stuck to the board, you might have like problems with cracking or even warping. Put another piece of paper on top and another board, and I'm going to actually let them dry out completely underneath this board. I'm not going to remove the board probably for 5 days or something like that, and I want them to dry completely under the board because that will stop them from warping in the kiln, hopefully. So yeah, I'm going to bisque these and then I'm going to be back with you for the glazing. Okay guys, we are here in my studio now. It's been about 2 weeks since I filmed that first part, but we now have our bisque tiles. So all I did between now and what you just saw is that I bisqued the pieces. And now I'm going to apply the resist, which I'll show you in a moment, glaze them, and then put them back in the kiln. So I bought this Pro Band fine line. I got this recommendation from a friend. I guess it's for people who do spray paint art. But anyway, it's this special kind of tape that is really flexible. However, you can use any type of tape. I want to use this tape because I want to make like some squiggly lines. But I've also used like masking tape in the past that also works just fine. Just make sure the tape doesn't leave a residue behind on the ceramic because that might mess up with your glazes. So I'm going to do a couple of different patterns on these guys. For the first one, I'm just going to stick with straight lines because I've never used this tape before and I want to kind of familiarize myself with it. But then I'm going to try and do some squiggles too. And when you're applying the tape, you really want to push it down and make sure it's very well stuck to your bisque. I'm going to kind of curl the tape around because I want to make sure I get the edges with a nice clean line, but I'm not going to worry about the backside because we're just going to clean off all the glaze from that. So one tile done. So this is what I meant by this tape being like a special tape. I guess you can kind of curl it. This is pretty much the maximum I can turn it without getting wrinkles, but that's what we're going to do now. So the next thing I'm going to try is using some of these stickers, and I think I want to make some dots. Actually, I think I'm going to cut the dots in half and make half dots. I think that'd be cute. It's really hard to know when to stop when you're doing this. Okay, so we've got our 4 taped up coasters here, and now all we need to do is go downstairs and get them glazed. Okay guys, we're down in my glazing cellar. So firstly, you want to make sure that you are mixing the glazes really well. I have this awesome drill that helps me with that, but you can also use a stirring stick, of course. So for this glazing process, I'm just going to dip the top of these tiles into the glaze. We could dip the whole thing in, but that will just give us extra work to clean off all the glaze from the bottom because of course we cannot have glaze on the bottom of our tiles or they will stick to the kiln shelf. So this just saves us an extra step. I'm so happy with them. I think they're so sweet. So I absolutely love how the wavy ones turned out. My stickers sort of reacted with the glaze a bit. Do you see maybe right here, there's like a bit of reaction there? So if you're gonna use stickers, make sure that you're using completely paper stickers. I had no idea what was in mine. In fact, they were a bit metallic, so I suspect there was a bit of plastic in my stickers. That's probably what's causing the reaction. In the end, a coaster is a coaster. So I'm pretty pleased with them. One thing I think I'm going to do next is I'm going to glue some cork to the bottom of them so they sit just nicer on the surface of the table. If you want, you can just leave them how they are and just sand them really well. If you go from a heavy grip sandpaper to a very fine grit sandpaper, you can actually get them like super buttery smooth. So that's it for me today. If you want to learn more about me and my studio, you can find me over on Instagram at Pottery to the People. If you're interested in my zine, I'll leave a link to that down below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Bye friends.